Well, welcome everyone to Mystery Stamping January 13th of 2022. I believe this is our first mystery stamping of the year. And so we'll get started with another fun day. Thank you for joining me for this. My phone's ringing in the background. Thank you for joining for this here first edition of Mystery Stamp on this Thursday. So I'm going to bring in the bits for the card that we're going to make. And so, whoops, I dropped them. So for the first thing for our mystery card that we're going to make today is going to be our card base, and our card base is supposed to be 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. So this is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2, and this is, I believe, Pool Party. I'm pretty certain it's Pool Party. And then we have another piece here, and this piece is 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches. We have a third piece here that is 1 1/4 inches by 4 inches. And then I have a circle, and I think it's like 1 1/4 to 1 1/2. It's an about, I mean, whatever this is going to be for our sentiment. So it's a circle to do the layering behind the actual sentiment piece. And then our next thing is going to be our DSP, so our coordinating DSP, which is our designer series paper. And today we're using, I'm using the pack of paper that's out of the celebration that goes with the stamp set. And I need to grab the name of that. It is, while celebration is going on, it will be one of, I call it a level 2, which means that you have to purchase $100 or more in merchandise to be able to get one of these items. And so it is Friendly Hello, and it's 12 by 12 designer series paper. And then it also comes with a stamp set. That's the reason why it's a level 2. And so that's the DSP that we're using today. And so the first piece of DSP is 2 3/4 by 4 inches. And then the next piece that we're using will be 1 1/8 by 4 inches. And then the next one says design 1 or 2, either one. And it's a 1/2 inch by 4 inches. And the design that I'm using is the same polka dot as this one. Our basic white or vanilla, depending on your DSP. If it has a vanilla undertone, you'd want to use the vanilla. But mine has basic white, so I'm using the basic white. And I need 2 pieces at 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I have those here. And then I also have my circle to put my sentiment on. And right here I put for the coordinating cardstock or basic white circle for your sentiment. Up here I'd put the circle at 1 1/4. So if you didn't want to add the white, you could just put your sentiment on the piece that is the same as your card base. But then here's what I'm going to put my sentiment on. I am not using any ribbon or twine. The stamp set that I am using, that's a good question. I just brought the actual sentiments with me. Okay. So I had several that I chose. For the inside of the card, I'm using the celebration special moments for this happy birthday. I'm making mine birthday cards today. So I'm going to use that to put on for my inside. And then for the outside, I have some that say, hello, my friend. And then I have some that says, I thought I might use the thing I like about you is everything. And then the other thing that I have is may your greatest wishes come true. So I cannot remember what set that came out of. Oh, it's this one here. It's still this one. So those are gonna depend, you know, when I'm doing a couple cards, those will be my sentiments. So I'm gonna move this out of the way. There'll be some in dimensionals used to pop some things up. I'm going to use liquid glue, so you can use whatever adhesive that you want. And then I think that's it for my embellishments. I tried to do a very simple card. No, I don't have ribbon. I don't have gems or any sequins or anything. So I hope that you like these cards today. So we'll get started. And with it being a mystery, you see what the card looks like at the end, but I think you will like this card. And then, like I said, I have a few others to step up. Well, here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my card base, and it's going to be a top open card. I'm going to fold this over and try to, for some reason here lately on my cutter, it's been being like a little crooked. And I don't know if it's my paper's crooked, not complete square, or if it's something that I'm doing. Either way, I try to line up the bottom so that it matches. And then even though I've already scored it, then I try to crease it and make it what my crisp line is, hopefully be straight. So there's that. So I've already creased and burnished my crease there. And then the first thing that I'm going to bring in is my layering for the top here. So I'm going to set one of those off to the side. I'm going to use liquid glue for this. I've been using liquid glue a lot here lately. It works great. It gives me a little bit of, like, I can slide it around. Our Stampin' Seal is great, but once it's on there, it's on there. And I'm crafting without glasses today. So I'm going to center that on there. So basically, we're just taking one of those basic white or your vanilla, whichever one that you're working with today. And that's going to be our first layer. And then because I'm using liquid glue, I like to kind of squish my glue to the edges so that I know my edges will stay down, but I don't want to squish it out from underneath my piece of cardstock. Okay, so I'm gonna set this over here to the side, and then I'm gonna bring in our next piece of our cardstock that coordinates with the card base, and bring in my largest piece of DSP. And then these two pieces are going to layer together here. So either side's really pretty, but I'm going to use the side that matches the color of my card base. So my pool party. I'm going to layer that on there and center it the best that I can. I think this is very pretty paper, and I just slid that. Oops. I squished it out the edge there, but that's going to be fine. I have an adhesive eraser if I need to use it. So I'm going to set that off to the side now. Then the next piece of our coordinating cardstock, which is the same color of the base of our card. And then I'm going to bring in our next size down of our DSP. And then I'm going to bring that, and it's the same length. I'm just going to center it top to bottom. So it should be about the same length, but there should be a bit of a difference on the width, or I guess the height. Okay, so I'm gonna set that off to the side. So right now we have our basic white layered onto the front of our card base. We have our largest piece of DSP layered onto our next size down of cardstock that matches the card base. And then we have the next size DSP in the second pattern, and it is layered onto the next step down of our card base color of cardstock. So then this last piece of our basic white, I'm going to bring this piece of DSP in, and I'm going to add it to the bottom. You can leave a little bit of white at the bottom. You could leave a larger amount of white at the bottom, but this is where I'm going to put this piece of DSP. If you want yours at the top, you're more than welcome to do that. These are just clues for and card pieces, and you can put yours together however you would like. I'm just showing you what my idea was, and so you make it your card, but I'm showing you my ideas and hopefully you like them. So I'm just leaving a little bit at the bottom. Now then, ever so slightly it hangs over. So to rectify that, I'm just going to turn it over, and I can see this little bit of the peach showing. And so I'm just going to use the edge of this white, basic white piece and trim away. And I mean, it's just a small sliver, but if you can see it where it's hanging over, like I couldn't see the back of it, no, when I glue it in, but I could see that it was going past there. And I did not care for that. So I'm gonna set this over here. So now that I'm gonna do my stamping. So I'm gonna bring in my stamp that states, "May your greatest wishes come true." Grab my block. There. And then bring in my Memento ink. I did forget to say that I was using Memento. You can use a colored ink if you want. This is such a pale, lighter, softer color that I decided I wanted a little pop of something, so I'm using black. I have a piece of it's doing pretty good. stamp that on my little circle, and I need to do better than that. I'm gonna flip this over so I have some contrast. It's hard to see the white circle on the white background. You could always stamp it, then use like a punch or a die cut to pop it out then, but I had mine already done, so all I had to do was now do the stamping. We'll set this ink off to the side. So now then it's time to adhere these together. So I'm going to take my glue, add it to the back of this where I went off the circle a little bit. So you should be stamping your sentiment and then doing the layering. So hold that for just a moment. There we go. So now that I'm going to bring back my card base and then add my inside. Well, I'm going to do my stamping before I put it in. So now then I have Happy Birthday from that set. And I'm going to add this to the inside, but I'm going to put it in a different place. So I'm going to ink these up. But this being a photopolymer makes it easy to see. So I'm going to bring it down here. Then I'm going to hold it so that the words can adhere and be crisp. And so here's my happy birthday. So may your greatest wishes come true, and then happy birthday. So it's kind of a different place to put your sentiment on the inside. So now then, I want to open up my card base, add some glue to the back of this. And then adhere it to the inside here. Center it the best that I can. And now we will work on the front. So the next piece we're going to adhere is our first pattern DSP that's layered on the cardstock. My paper is not directional, but if your paper was, this piece was supposed to be cut in portrait. If you did by chance cut it in landscape, then your card, instead of opening, like you wouldn't put your sentiment the direction that I did, you would put it where yours opened this way and you would put your sentiment this way. My stomach keeps growling. So we'll hold that for a moment. And then the next piece that we're going to add is our horizontal piece. We will glue that. I'll go up just a little bit, about there. Hold that there in place. Now then, it's dimensional time. So I'll bring in my dimensionals. So here's the top. I'm just going to flip it so that it's near me. And I have my minis here. So I'm going to add 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. If it was regular ones, I would just do 1 and 1. And then I want to add this about right there. So there you go. There is your first card. Here's the one we just made. And there's the one that I made as my sample before. So now that we have this card, this follows all of the clues that I gave you. Now then, I'm going to do another card where it just takes it one little step up from this card. So I'll bring in those pieces. So once again, I've got my card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And so while I'm working on this card, you'll get to see how to put the card together again. And while you're, for those that are stamping along with me, the next card that we're going to do, instead of this being white, I switched it to black to give it a little bit of a pop. And so this piece here is the piece that is the 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have a piece of 4 by 5 1/4. So one of the white, basic white pieces I swapped out for black. And then the piece that was white, or the card base collar that went behind the DSP, I swapped it out for black for a pop of color. And so this piece is the 3 by 4 1/4. And then our DSP that would layer on top of this is 2 3/4, I believe, by 4. And then our next piece here is black also. I swapped it out from the card base color to black. And this piece is 1 1/4 by 4 inches wide. And then the DSP to go on that one, this piece is the same size as the one on the last card. It is 1 1/8 by 4 inches. And then this piece of cardstock, basic white, is the step down from this one. So this cardstock is 3 3/4 by 5. So I just stepped it down like that. So I'm adding an extra layer of black behind my piece of white to step it up. And then here's our strip for the inside of the card. So we will get started on that. Oh, and then within theme for the black, I made the circle layering piece black. And then this is our piece of basic white. So I will start doing my layers. So I'm going to take the black and adhere my basic white to it. So all I'm doing is swapping out the collar behind each of the DSPs from the base collar to black. And then I added black for my second layer, and then just made my basic white piece a 1/4 inch smaller. So there's that. So here's my first layer and second layer. So my first layer is black, second one's white. This got swapped out, would have been fresh freesia, but now it's black. So I'm going to add this to my black piece. And just so for a little tip, for my piece of my black circle, I could have taken it from the center of this one or the center of this other black layer, because it's going to be covered and nobody would have seen it. And my white circle could have been taken from this layer, because it would, like, if you get right in the center, because it's going to be covered. So add my layer here. I do little tricks like that so I don't have to cut into a full sheet of paper for a circle, but I already had a piece of scrap, so I just used it for that. So now I'm going to add it to this piece. So just right in the center. So that really pops just like that. I'm going to add my little strip to my inside piece. I'm hoping you're enjoying this pattern of card, this design. And then see that you've just, by changing a couple things, you can make it use the same pattern, but then step it up just a little bit. And I have that little piece hanging over. Okay, so there's that. And I'm going to glue these two together. This is just a light design, and this is a little bit more bold. So, I mean, it's still fairly kind of a simple design, but because it has the black in it, the flowers were stamped in black or printed in black, then I wanted to make certain that I didn't have a piece of DSP that was fighting with that design. Okay, so now then for the words, I want to do, for this one, I'm going to do the words hello friend, or hello my friend, and it's 2 stamps from the ladybug. Oops. I'll move my lid out of the way and flip this over so I can see the contrast. So what I did was I put hello and then butted my friend up to it, stamped it on scratch paper to make certain it was straight. And then I'm stamping them at the same time. Now it saves me time. And like I said, it came from the Hello Ladybug stamp set. Actually, it's a bundle with the punch. So, give it a second to dry. Set this right here, give that a moment to dry, and then I'm going to bring in that happy birthday again. I'm going to go ahead and stamp this one while that's drying. So I'm going to ink up my happy birthday. I'm going to the bottom right, just above my piece of DSP strip. There we go. It's just something different too, you know, instead of just putting it right in the center. You could add something else up there if you wanted to, but I'm just trying to do simple. Okay, so we will glue these together and then we can put our card together. I'm going to layer that. I'll take the top of it and make certain it's closest to me. Have a couple of the minis. Oops. At the top and a couple at the bottom. We'll start adhering everything. So I'm going to cup it this way. Make sure I can line it up best that I can. See how it's kind of bowing here? That means that it's not 100%. So I'm going to add my inside piece. You can just add glue across the top on the inside pieces, or you can attach the whole thing. Add this to the front of my card. So I'm just going to add glue all over the back of it, near the edges, but not up to the edge. If it's directional, make certain you have it going in the right direction. This one's, again, not really directional, so. Add that there. I just give it a moment till it can adhere well. Next thing to add is our strip that goes across. I'm going to come up so that there's room for that circle to hang down. And it's going from that first layer over to the first layer. And I'll remove my backings off of my little dimensionals. Toss them away. Add my hello, my friend. I'm trying to make certain my words are pretty straight. And so we have hello, my friend. happy birthday on the inside. So there's the one that I just made. There's my sample that I did ahead of time. I think they're very pretty, and just by adding this little extra layer here, it steps it up just a little bit, and adding the black to make it pop, that steps it up just a little bit. So we switched out the card base color for black, the card base color for black for our layering underneath layers, and then added the black as the layer for what the white is, and then brought in just a 1/4 inch smaller of the basic white piece, and then that kind of steps it up, gives it a little bit, you know, it's a one extra layer, but it looks like several more layers just by the way that we have the contrast of the dark and the light. So this is very simple. This one's also simple, but it looks more elegant with the extra layer and with it being the more contrast. So now then, with these two cards, I took that same the same clues, and I kind of swapped out some things and removed some things to step up this card again to do it a little bit different. So this time I used the same card base, and then I did the same white layer. I did the same colored layer, the same to match the card base, but instead of doing DSP, I used another piece of white and did the basic white and did stamping. The piece that goes across here in the center, this wider piece, instead of adding that piece in the DSP, I added a piece of ribbon. So here is my card. So here is my base, same as that. Here's my white piece, the same as that. My layering matches the card base, the same. Swapped out DSP for a piece of basic white and did my stamping. And this is not necessarily a distinctive stamp, but it is. And I watched a demonstrator. She inked it in one color and then brought a sponge dauber in and added a little bit darker color to the center of the flower and stamped it. So that's what I did, and I did that twice. So you do it once and you have to clean your stamp, and then you ink it up in the lighter color and then use your sponge dauber to add a little bit darker to it. And then I removed our sentiment here, so I took away elements. So this is simpler with fewer pieces, but it kind of steps it up because I added my ribbon to my white layer before I glued it down. So then that eliminated this layer, giving us the glue layer, or I mean the ribbon layer, pardon me, instead of the sentiment being on the circle, stamped it through here. And this this piece right here is a design that I believe it was Jennifer Cotton. I can't remember if it's Cotton or Cottom, but she's a demonstrator that has lovely designs. So I decided this piece here to go ahead and mimic the things that she had done on that. And then, so there you go. And then on the inside, instead of it being that strip of paper of the DSP, I just put another stamp this is out of that same one. And to do this stamp, I stamped it in the light, added the sponge dauber of the little bit darker, and then because this had leaves, I made certain for the leaves not to get in the Highland Heather, and I added I believe it was Old Olive on another sponge dauber to give the ink there. So there we go. So here is our mystery stamping. We have solved the case of our mystery card, and we went from a simpler card to a little bit stepped up version to yet another stepped up elegant version of this card. So I hope that you will take the clues and make your own card, and then, you know, just change out your DSP and change out what your theme is. Change out some of your colors instead of making it, this is kind of not really monochromatic, but kind of, and then add some like little bits that will make it pop. And then to change it out, do some more stamping. This is simpler stamping. This is more stepped up stamping. So thank you for joining me for our first edition of Mystery Stamping in the 2022 year. Thank you.